Blake Griffin sat down with Sage Steele and told her that he was 100% ready to go if the season was to resume for the NBA, and his arthroscopic knee surgery was a success. Let's talk about it. Hit that subscribe button, bell icon button, share the video. Mentorship Sports Talk. We in the building, and people saying, well, I thought the season was over with. Well, Adam Silver talked about doing the play-in tournament to get into the playoffs, so I think that will be made up of teams probably that won't make the playoffs or ain't in the playoffs right now, and they will play in for, I guess, the last few seeds. So they're not ruling out 7-game series, for the playoffs as well. The NBA is greedy. They want to at least get the TV money. But let's talk about Blake first before we get into the particulars about life after the regular season. And Blake Griffin said he good to go. He said he'd been cleared for quite some time, but he'd been stuck in his house. It was a video that surfaced that some kids were schooling Blake on the court, and Blake laughed because TMZ tried to make a dubious headline, which was an actual dud. But, he'd been having knee problems since he came into the league, and if I'm them, I wouldn't even chance it. He wouldn't even touch the floor until training camp when we came back. I would tell Blake to take it easy, do the workouts, do the rehab and all the stuff to keep the knee good, because really they gonna need Blake Griffin. They can turn Blake into an asset, however you look at it. If Blake do good and he can make all NBA third team, or he can trend to be like that all-star that he was that year, a couple years ago, they can trade him and turn him into an asset. If he never, return to form, or teams don't trust his knee, then his $36 million roll off the cap in 2 years. So however you look at it, Blake is an integral part of the rebuild. Blake Griffin isn't here to win basketball games and sell tickets anymore. His primary goal for the Pistons is to groom the young guys going up. Him and Derrick Rose are like the player coaches for the Detroit Pistons at this point. But there's no way I throw Blake Griffin back out there on the court, even if we had a chance to play in into the playoff tournament. I wouldn't even play none of my starters and none of my good players. I would tank that just to go into the playoffs and get swept and lose draft position. So I'm not sure if they're going to put the lesser teams in this play-in tournament. And I'm not sure they would know the particulars of this play-in tournament, but I wouldn't play Blake Griffin until next year. And if I did play him, I'll put him on a snap count or pitch count. Like they did Derrick Rose this year. He wouldn't be playing more than 30 minutes a game. That's how it is. We're not trying to win games. We don't need him to put the team on our back. We in full rebuild. And people say, well, why didn't they get rid of Blake Griffin instead of Andre Drummond? Well, you really can't, this ain't like used cars or trading your car in. They say pull it in, push it in, drag it in, or drive it in. No, you got to be able to play when you making $35+ million a night for 2 more years. He got to be able to contribute. So they just couldn't trade him. Drummond was an asset that can run, jump, and that's been durable. Blake Griffin wasn't an asset they can trade because he was injured, but they never ruled him out coming back. They never put him on whatever the NBA version of injured reserve is. They never put him on injured reserve. They kept saying he was out indefinitely, and they never closed the book on him coming back this year. And it seemed like they was willing to let him come back and play. It's kind of like the Matt Stafford situation where, when they let Stafford continue to play with a bad back, and then, a year later, it's still haunting them. And it really came back to bite Patricia and Bob Quinn in the ass. Same thing with Blake Griffin. They wanted to win basketball games so bad that they had lost like 2 years ago, 15 out of 17 games or something like that. And they still was playing Blake Griffin 40+ minutes, even if they getting blew out by 50. Dwayne Casey's still playing them. And Lord behold, they come after the All-Star break, after he had an MVP-like season, if they had the win percentage to do so, and he get broke down because they didn't keep him on the pitch count. You knew this dude got a bad knee. And what the Pistons did was they sacrificed Blake Griffin even furthermore to try to get a win versus Milwaukee in the playoff series. They was going to get blew out in, and now Blake Griffin basically misses the whole entire 2019-20 season. And now it's a possibility that they was thinking about bringing him back in this year. It's crazy. You let him rest that knee. You let him figure out, do we need to cut some weight, cut some muscle, cut some water, get a new playing weight. Let him, that knee be fresh, and come up with a plan where you can stretch the most out of Blake Griffin next 2 years here. But the ideal thing ain't the win. You want to tank and be bad. The only thing you really can do is showcase Blake Griffin's skills and try to get somebody to trade for him. A contender, If he look good half of next year, maybe you can deal him for Spencer Dinwiddie trade to Brooklyn. Maybe, the Nuggets might want a veteran like him, But with that price tag, it's going to be hard to get in where you fit in with him. Griffin going to have to ride it out, but I still wouldn't play him. I still wouldn't play him this year. And if the Pistons organization is truly turning the corner, they won't play him until he's ready yet neither. So I don't know if they're going to finish out the last 18 games of the season, or they're going to do this play-in thing that Adam Silver, the commissioner, talking about. I'll put that article link in the description. But for Blake Griffin, I don't just think it was just some loose bodies in his knee that need to be cleared up. I seen this man come back, and he just looked terrible. When he came back and tried to force it, he couldn't run up the court. He was actually hurting the Pistons, by even being out there. And I just don't think in 6 or 7 or a few months since the surgery that he fixed. This is a chronic problem that he's been dealing with. And now the Pistons got 2 players that's dealing with knee injuries that they got to make decisions on. And that's Luke Kennard and Blake Griffin. If they can, put a plan around Blake Griffin and make him look good, and somebody can bite and trade you an asset or a pick for him, you can get that $36 million off your cap, or you can bring in an asset that can help this team. That's great. If not, he play it out and he try to go somewhere else and win a championship at the end of his career. But, no means if they start this season over with that you play Blake Griffin. Will the Pistons make the same mistake 3 times over again? They did it with Grant Hill. They did it with Blake Griffin last year. And they going to just really run the rest of Blake Griffin prime out. Blake Griffin going to be like Chandler Parsons, just sitting on the end of the bench, $35 million, doing nothing. You get rid of Josh Smith to bring in a guy that's making, 4 times, 5 times more, 7 times more than Josh Smith was making. So you're just going to have $35 and $36 million on the cap through the 2022 season is remarkable. Rest them. You see specialists. You get with the trainers, the nutritionists, and see, what does he need to do to prolong his career, and we can get the most out of our bang for our buck for him. Does he need to cut weight? Does he need to cut muscle? Do we need to play different? Do we need to be on the pitch count? See, with Kevin Durant getting injured, they already talking about he may never be a 40-minute player a game. And that's fine. That's truly fine. But you find a way to get the most out of that $100 and something million contract. And for Blake, you find a way to get the most out of this $70 million left. But if Blake was healthy and Dre was healthy, I'm telling you, Blake Griffin would be gone. They both probably would be gone. And you got to know when to hold them and when to fold them. And the Pistons should have folded them 2 years ago at the All-Star break, last season, not this past season, last season. They should have traded Blake Griffin. He had an MVP type year, all NBA third team, and they should have traded Andre Drummond. And the rebuild would have been so much easier. You know what I'm saying? You would have had assets to play with, and then you would have been 1 year ahead of the rebuild. But they were just so hard just trying to make the playoffs for no reason. This didn't make no sense. And now you stuck with Blake Griffin when you could have got rid of all your cap space could have been gone. You could have got rid of the 35 for Dre, or the 26 or 28 for Dre. You could have got rid of the 35 for Blake. You could have got rid of the 18 for Reggie Jackson. It could have been a complete rebuild. You probably would have been in the Ja Morant, Zion Williamson sweepstakes last year. But it ain't the worst thing in the world. Because one of the positives about keeping Blake Griffin and also having Derrick Rose on the roster, if you draft a point guard, if you find you a big man, or Blake can get can coach Christian Wood up a little bit and show him how it's done. You got a mentor that money can't really buy. When you a coach and you worried about doing some personal things, you got a guy that can watch the players and make sure they don't make the mistakes on the road and show them how to be a pro. So it's a positive to keeping Blake and Derrick Rose. But I look forward to seeing them healthy when they actually get to next season. And I think Blake and Derrick Rose, healthy knees, healthy bodies. I think for a short amount of time, they're going to be a dynamic duo, kind of showing the young guys on the team how to get it done. So let me know what you guys think. I'll link that article in the description. Don't forget me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can reach out if you have a business question, query, sponsorship, video question, you want to chop it up. All my social media links there. Want to make a donation, Cash App, PayPal in the description. But let's go to donate. It's to share the video. Let me know what you guys think about Blake Griffin being ready for the season, knee all healed up, and possibly resuming when play resumes. But I don't think that's a good idea. One time for the one time Murder Street Sports Talk. Don't forget to check out the channel out, Goodfellas Sports TV, right here on YouTube. One time for the one time. We gone.